Hello, everybody. Well, welcome to the show. And I got some three buddies of mine that are on the show today. This is our first YouTube live show for Baskis 360, so bear with us if we have any problems. A little bit of background information. Thanks, Susan, for writing in and asking or telling me I should give a better introduction of what's going on. So I got three buddies, Eric, Ken, and Mike, on the call. They worked with me on the Grand Canyon or the Colorado River. Last September, we were part of the Vision team. 5 blind vets kayaked the Colorado River, 226 miles over 12 days in September of last year, 2018. And so what we want to show is a video that Google is a big sponsor, and we had this production crew that they had their own raft, and they followed us down the river, and they were taking these 360-degree shots of iconic spots on the river and in the canyon. And so they did this little clip for us. It's about 5 minutes, and I want to play that so people could get a feel, and then we'll talk to Mike, Ken, and Eric, who were specifically my part of my pod, meaning they worked with me. They were my guides, my primary guide, secondary guide, and sweep. So, but I'll explain more of that in a moment. So, Vic, if we can show that video.
Kayaking a river like this as a blind person is a really different experience. You're running down through the canyons and you just hear the roar and the rage of the rapids as you're getting close to them. It's like, wow, I can't see it. But okay, that one's gonna be big. Yeah, that one's gonna be real big. Keep coming, right? The Grand Canyon is the ultimate kayaking expedition. It's 12 days, 226 miles, tons of white water.
This is the first time 5 blinded vets are kayaking down the Grand Canyon.
I stare into a still, dark world, and that can make you want to be stagnant. And it's not what I want to be. I want to move.
We developed this simple system for kayaking blind.
My primary guide leading me is creating this verbal reference point.
Whatever noise I make, they try to follow me. Essentially, I am a homing beacon.
The guides are veterans as well, so you have that camaraderie. I'm helping other veterans achieve something, and that's like therapy for me.
Nobody comes home from more of the same. We have physical wounds in this group, but mental wounds as well. We're all healing together. You know, compassion's there. People are here for you.
Being in the Grand Canyon is just a moment to absorb and feel where you are.
Feels like the river.
We have friends telling us about the geology and the various colors.
Stick 'em up high.
Touch the canyon wall.
There it is. God.
I told him to tell me not what he sees, but what he feels.
So cool.
He told me he felt insignificant. I knew immediately what he was seeing.
As you journey down the river, the rapids in the Grand Canyon just get more and more intense. It can be absolutely terrifying.
You have to work through this thing in your head where you're going to submit yourself to going through this rapid.
In the military, your life depended on those people around you, and that extends out here.
A little bit more left.
You're putting your lives in their hands once again, and they got you.
There you go. Little bit, little bit. Right here, right here. Yeah, buddy.
lost my vision, I had no idea what a blind person could do. I was the first blind person I met.
Oh, you got it. Can I get a hug, Lonnie?
Being able to find not just a sport, but a community of other veterans was life-changing.
I am hoping that others realize that what's within them is bigger than their limitation.
When you come out here and you kayak the river like this and work as a team, you tap into that resilience and that courage that exists within you.
Just gives you this sense of belonging. Makes you believe that you can do anything.
Lonnie. Makes you believe you can do anything. I think they did a really good job, don't you guys?
Yeah. Anybody else get the chills right there?
Yeah, great video.
It always really makes me think of the river. So I got my buddies here that kept me alive on the river on the show, Eric, Mike, and Ken. And say hi, guys.
Hi, guys.
Anyway, I think we should say something about Eric, though, because Eric is the new daddy. And if I'm not mistaken, you have River with you right there, right?
I do. Would you like to see him?
Yeah. Let's show him to the world.
Born January 29th, 7:09 a.m., 9 pounds, 3 ounces. Cute as can be. All healthy. So just over a week old.
And so for you guys listening, Eric was more or less my primary guide down the river, and I met him in the Denver area doing some training on the Platte River, and he's a great guide. And then Ken Brabant was my my sweep, and he followed up behind the group and kept me safe. In the sense of tried to keep up. Well, he was there if I was gonna drown, so, or if I got caught in an eddy or something. For those those people that don't understand maybe the river and the terminology, but there's these eddy fences and water on the sides of the river it's flowing at a different rate in a different direction, and I can get tugged into those things, of course, and be left behind. So Ken and Mike, Big Mike. How you doing, man?
Pretty good, man.
Are you at home, or are you in Denver area, or?
Colorado Springs. I got the day off today, so I'm just hanging out at the apartment.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on, man. I like Lonnie and Kathy and Travis and Brian, we were given the great opportunity to go on the Today Show in December last year in 2018, and it would have been nice to have had to have the whole team there, because it was truly a team effort, and I wanted to give you guys the opportunity now that I'm doing this show. I don't know where this show is going to go, but I really wanted to. I dedicate the show to you guys and the people that have helped me through life. So this was a remarkable trip, and I really just wanted to have you guys on so that we could talk a little bit about that with people and share maybe different things. So Ken and I were presenting just recently in Wisconsin, where he lives, and maybe talk a little bit about that, Ken, like what we did there.
Yeah, we had 2 presentations. We were supposed to have 4, and we had a big snowstorm. Was that a week ago, Monday?
The polar vortex, or whatever they call that stuff.
Yeah, polar vortex snowstorm. It was. What did it got down to 23?
Negative 23.
Actual temperature here.
Wow.
Steve was here, so he was. I'm sure glad that he was here. Vic too. But we did have a good presentation that before the snowstorm hit, that Saturday night at my paddle club. We had about 100 people there for our meeting and banquet, and then on Tuesday we spoke to another club that I'm in, the Retired Men's Club. Yeah, I'm that old, and
You look great to me, Ken. So.
Here comes the blind jokes already.
You guys,
so Steve starts off the second presentation. He's introduced and he stands up there and he says, "Well, I can't find my notes, so I'll just have to do this blind."
Go at it blind. But that keep that on the lowdown. People are gonna get mad at me. The blind individuals out there. the blinkies. No,
I think it was good because you start out on a good humorous note, and if there's any apprehension, tension on the part of the audience, it just puts them at ease. I thought it was really good.
They had some wonderful things to say there, like what one gentleman was like. I've been coming to the last 7 meetings, and I think I've got more out of this this meeting or this speech than all of those, something like that. But they were really nice. It was a great group of people, and it was nice to have that opportunity, Ken. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about like some things on the river, like so maybe the uncomfortable things, like Eric, were you anxious at all, like when you were setting out on this endeavor?
Absolutely. Going into it, I wasn't really sure what to expect, and obviously I'd done the river before, but it was completely different guiding you down the river, knowing not only did I have to take care of myself, I had to lead you, but then the guys behind you were also following you. So really, in reality, I'm guiding 3 other people down the river.
Yeah.
And there's pressure on me, and it was more difficult than I expected.
The thing, what I told you, Eric, when I first met you, and it's just like I was skiing up in Snowmass last week here in Colorado. And, certain guides, certain individuals that pony up to and agree to do something like this, because there's a lot of trust involved in both directions. I told you that I thought you were, you're real natural at it, and I thought, and I still do, and you were very confident and didn't show any kind of fear or stress, more or less, and because I told you that kind of that I feel that, and it can make me uncomfortable on the river, and the one thing about your guiding style and working with me was you're real comfortable, and it's the same for Ken too, and Mike. Mike's guided me in training, and Mike booming voice and really easy to follow, and I trusted all you guys with my life, and I always tell my guys, I agreed to do this. The dumb blind guy, and if something happens to me, I was full in, and I really wanted to experience this and push the limits, and I think we did that. And for a lot of people, it's they'll never realize it unless they go on a trip like this. And Mike, what did you feel? Did you you're sometimes quiet, but you're a fun guy, and I just often wonder if you were at all anxious, or you're just like, let's rock and roll, the whole time. What do you think, Mike? Are you there?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking to somebody else.
I was talking to you, Mike.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I remember the first time when we were training probably the second time, actually, I think, when we were training in Colorado.
Yep.
And I had a moment where I was a little louder and a little shakier in my voice.
Uh-huh.
And you heard that, and I noticed it transferred to you, and then we had that conversation after, and that was a big learning point for me. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
We were kind of heading off towards the rocks, and I started yelling.
Yeah.
Do you remember that on the
Pooter?
Pooter.
Yeah.
It was, it was just the intensity. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry, guys.
I was going to say that was a big learning point for me. I had never really been in that kind of lead position before. And
really,
I thought that was a big growing point for our team, because Eric and I and Steve, we all it was one of our first times paddling together. So that was a lot of fun, though. And I think we kind of all grew into our positions pretty well. And I don't know, it was great.
It was. No, and for a lot of the viewers and listeners, for me, I think I started really working hard a year and a half before the actual Grand Canyon trip, which was September 1st of 2018, last year. And so I was the Team River Runner, the organization that organized the entire trip. Lonnie Bedwell, the blind kayaker that went down the river so many years ago for the first time, and Joe Mornini, the executive director. These guys kind of helped spear, amongst many other team members and people that work for Team River Runner, helped spearhead this trip. But a year and a half before it, I was working with different guides. The last 3 years, really, just on different whitewater across the country. And so, for the listeners and viewers, Mike and Eric and Ken kind of came into the picture, especially Mike and Ken, closer to right before we left. So I think the first, we were in Clear Creek in Golden practicing. We were in the Pooter. We were doing stuff on the lake a little bit with the fundraiser and in Denver area. And then we were on the Salmon a little bit. Eric was there. Ken, that's where I met Ken for the first time. And the Salmon River was the river we were on right before the Grand Canyon in September last year. But what did you guys think of that training? Like, Ken, when I know when I met you, had you worked with anybody blind before, like leading them or doing anything in particular?
Well, kayaking, I had worked with a blind person in Wausau at the Whitewater Park there. But for blind in general, all types of sports, I was a ski guide for 11 years, guiding blind and partially sighted people. So, great experience there, just in how to work with someone, how to play with someone like that. And,
yeah, so you were comfortable. I know you mentioned when I was there in Wisconsin that you had indeed worked with blind and visually impaired participants on the slopes, like skiing and that kind of stuff helps. You also mentioned that you were on I don't know if it was a Team River Runner trip or and it was Dave or Joe or whoever, they were watching you surf a wave. I remember you describing.
Oh yeah. And that was we were on Lower Yaak, I think it was.
Oh wow, yeah.
The Castle, one of the rivers in Pennsylvania, on one of the Team River Runner trips, and this was before I was asked to go on the Grand Canyon trip, and I think I said this to Dave Roby, who works at Team River Runner. I said, "Did you choose me to go on this trip because you saw that I could handle the whitewater in Pennsylvania?" And he says, "Well, that," and he said, "You get along with everybody too, and that's important on a 2-week trip." So.
Well, how did that go, Eric? Like the team, because we were a big group, 30 some total with everybody, with the camera crew, the ASRA, which is Arizona Raft Adventures or Rafting Adventures, that crew that helped guide us. They had some big J rigs, these massive rafts, 2 of them, and then we had the small film crew on their raft, and then all 22 of us, I think, in kayaks, if I'm not mistaken. But Eric, I thought it was amazing that we didn't have any big fights or or arguments.
I've done this trip multiple times with varying sizes groups. This was obviously the biggest group I've ever done. I think what really separated this trip from other trips is that we all had a common interest to successfully lead you guys down the river, and that really really helped. And we didn't have any big flare-ups, but you're right, when you have that many people, 32 people, over 2 weeks in tight quarters, it's hard to get along with everyone. But, I think with the respect and our common interests, everyone got along great.
I agree. It's an amazing place. It's a quiet place. The acoustics are so cool. Mike, what was your favorite locale? You've been down the river multiple times too, twice or more than that.
This was my second time down the Grand Canyon.
And was there any particular part of the canyon you loved the most, rapid and and the walks and stuff? I don't know if we walked more, or did hikes more than your first trip, or if it was less, because of the speed at which we were moving. But I was just wondering what you loved. Yeah,
it was about the same for hikes and trips and stuff. But I think my favorite part of location in the Grand Canyon is definitely it's either Hance or it's lava. Just the scouting points from those two areas. It's just there's so much nervousness and anxiety build up before that, and I don't know. And the water's just so crazy. Really, really fun. But I think my favorite camping spot on the river was Ledges. I thought that was really neat.
Oh yeah,
those rocks. They were warm all night long, and it was just a really cool place. So
that was my least favorite.
I didn't sleep well that night. Wasn't there a goat or something?
That night. It was so hot.
I think I got a picture of Ledges. I'll pop up here in just a second for you guys.
Vic is showing.
I wrote in my blog too that I had sore ribs that night too, and so I could only sleep on my back. I couldn't sleep on my side or anything. And I was just miserable. But anyway, I'm glad you liked it.
Was that because I hit you, Ken? I didn't I hit you on the river?
No, I think it's because in a rapid previously when I got rolled, I was kind of thrashed back and forth, and I think I bruised my ribs.
Well, I know that I ran into somebody. I didn't run into any rocks on the river really at all the whole time, but I punched a kayak, just paddling, driving hard and forward, and someone rolled in front of me, and I don't remember who it was. I
I know that the bow of my kayak hit your left hand.
Yeah, yep.
I know that hurt you pretty bad for a while.
Yeah, it was. I'm trying to remember when that was during the trip, but I know there at Ledges though, and Vic, for you guys, he's showing photos as we talk to everybody. That I meant to grab some more from you guys individually, but I think we have a bunch of different kinds of things that we can show. But wasn't that the night that there was some goat or something kicking rocks off the top?
Yeah.
I thought someone fell in the water, but I didn't hear a scream.
Like 4 a.m.
Yeah, it was like 4 a.m.
Yeah, there's mountain goats knocking rocks on the other side of the canyon.
I think they were mad we were in their spot or something. Mike, I think between Ken and Eric, you were prior service, weren't you, as well? You served in the military.
I was.
What'd you do?
I was a combat medic in the Army for 10 years. And I spent the majority of that with the 101st Airborne Division.
Awesome, man. I bring that up because a number of the guys that were helping support the blind vets, the 5 of us, were veterans, and just like it was Gooseman that was talking in the video how if I'm not mistaken how there was camaraderie and stuff. I really enjoyed that and thought that was really cool for the whole group to have that kind of sense. Team River Runner does a great job with that, and maybe one of you guys can maybe talk a little bit more about, because I know, Mike, you've done a lot with Team River Runner on the Front Range and stuff. It seems like in other organizations you do a lot of volunteering, and like I tell people, I'm quite literally guided through life, and I think that's real important because when something is stripped away from you, like your sight, and you're told you can't drive anymore, you can't do this or that, which is rightfully so. You don't want me driving, but
yeah, you have a nicer truck than all of us.
I sold that to my brother. You guys got to drive that.
Oh, it was awesome.
So people they're talking about the vehicle that got all the kayaks and equipment to the Grand Canyon, or to Flagstaff anyway. But yeah, Mike,
I got to drive that too in Montrose for a short time.
You did. That's right. Everybody's gets to drive it, but me. It's so unfair. I get to pay for the vehicle, but everybody else gets to drive it. So
perks. You try to put a speed limiter on it for us.
Perks of being blind. I mean, but yeah, Mike. I mean, if it wasn't for people like you, man, my medic saved my life, and I wouldn't be here today, man. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to go do the things I did with you guys. What was I know the entire trip was amazing, and I had a hard time when I came back explaining it. I was sitting in my apartment alone, and I really didn't. I hadn't gone out, and it's funny when you talk to some people, they're like, oh, that's awesome, I had a hard time explaining it to people. And Joe Mornini always said, it's an epic place. It's a place like you don't want to come out of. Does that resonate with you guys?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think the fact that we had a mission as we went through the Grand Canyon too. It wasn't just a bunch of friends getting together to go on the river. It was, we had this mission, this Team River Runner mission to get you guys down the river, and that unified us. It put a big emotional level into the trip that probably wouldn't have been there otherwise, and made it that much more special.
Most definitely. Lonnie and I would have conversations quite often about doing things, as a blind individual, like these adventurous acts of going up mountains or kayaking down rivers. And a lot of times it's, you're kind of on your own, because there's not a tremendous amount of blind or visually impaired individuals doing it. Maybe spread out across the country there are, but like, you don't just walk down the street and find someone that is blind like you doing it. And so it was cool to do it as a team, to have five blind veterans, all who had served in different branches with different kinds of stories of loss of sight, and from all over the country, Illinois, Indiana, Colorado, and Kentucky, and so on. But I always thought that's a cool thing, for a great accomplishment, more or less, because you hear a lot of times a single individual doing something, and so you're right, Ken. Is there anything else that you guys, like, if you were on the Today Show, you guys wanted to, mention something, like, Eric, about guiding, did it seem impossible to you guys, like this idea when you first started hearing about it, whenever that was, or did you guys always, maybe you guys are wired differently than some, so because some people I meet, think differently. Sorry, go ahead.
When it's an interesting question, because when I first met you, I was volunteering for, Team River Runner here and there, and Josh Thurman came in and had asked me to volunteer when you came into town for the Dash and Splash, and said you guys were training. He told me, we have some blind veterans coming in, we need volunteers. I was like, you want me to do what?
It's a joke.
Yeah. and actually, I mean, that was my first response. But I had known of Lonnie and Eric in the past.
Of course, yeah.
That had already gone down, and so I jumped on the opportunity right away, and I couldn't imagine doing anything better. And obviously, with that invitation led to the Grand Canyon, and I'm so thankful for that. And I never thought it was impossible. I knew it was going to be difficult, but it was very doable, and we made it happen.
Yeah, Mike, like I want each one of you guys to kind of comment on this question. I don't know. It may not just be kayaking or anything, because you've probably worked with a lot of different abilities. Like, have you always been wired that way to give people a chance? Maybe it's your military service or the wild way you've lived growing up. But because like I do meet people that are really worried about it, or maybe not. They would definitely probably not guide me. I've had guys in the middle of like a climbing trip, for instance, get freaked out and be like, because I slipped a little bit near a little drop off, just a 500-foot drop off or without. But and they're like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I mean, early on, like whenever that first encounter with someone that was disabled, were you all in, like, or like, explain that to me, or even just your thoughts about like kayaking, like, is that weird, or what was that feeling like, so.
Yeah. So I don't know, when I was invited to go on the first Grand Canyon trip with Lonnie.
Yep.
I thought that was an insane idea, totally insane. And then I went on the trip and I saw Lonnie paddling through those rapids, and what he did, I was like, man, yeah, he's an amazing paddler, but it's possible.
Yeah.
And then I ended up working with the National Sports Center for Disabled for a while, and I kind of saw people pushing the limits and kind of growing into something that they didn't think, was possible.
Yeah.
And pushing boundaries every day. And so when I heard about this trip through Lonnie, and he said he's going to bring 5 blind paddlers, I said, Lonnie, you're crazy. It just sounded wild, but man, what an amazing experience that was. And I don't know, I don't think I'm wired that way. I'm very anxious and nervous all the time, but working with Team River Runner, working with the NSCD, working with people like you and people like Lonnie and Kathy and Travis, and I mean, Brian, you guys are awesome, and you're really motivated, and you've got a drive inside you, and it was awesome. It was awesome to work with you guys, and I think that's made me have a little bit more of a drive as well, and to be a little less anxious.
Man, no, it's funny that you mentioned the anxiety. I actually, when I think of you, Mike, and especially on the river, whenever we were sitting in the kayak waiting or doing something, you're so calm. I don't think of it. I don't look at you that way. Like, I don't interpret that. I feel like you're real strong headed and are very confident, and I enjoyed following you, like on the salmon, even on the short bits, on the pooter and stuff. It is challenging. It's challenging all the time for the leader, for the main guide, whoever's leading out front, whether that's Ken, Eric, and all of you guys did guide me at times on the river or different rivers. But I appreciate what you said, Mike. Ken, I know you've worked for a while with people, like I asked, like, are you wired that way, or was there like a lot of times I meet people too that have family members that have a disability or something, and they kind of they've been introduced to that, that reality. What do you think about what we're talking about?
I didn't have any people with blindness in my family. I didn't really know any blind people until I started ski guiding. But it just seemed, I had seen the guides and the VIPs, as we call them, the visually impaired persons, on the slopes, and I said, this is something I'd like to get involved with. So I did the training with them where they blindfold you, for the whole evening, and even into the restroom and the cafeteria and that whole thing, and went through the training just to get an idea what it, just a hint of what it's like for you, so that we could be better guides. And just something I have always enjoyed doing.
I'm always blown away and truly inspired, because I realize there are a lot of people that won't guide me. They're very afraid in doing that, and I have to, I have to commit and work really hard to be an asset to, and to be an athlete, a good athlete, and understand the skills and the technique of any of the sports, whether it's kayaking or climbing. And but to have someone like like each one of you guys volunteer and to be open to doing that is an amazing thing, because it empowers me, gives me a sense of inspiration as well. And I know Lonnie and Travis and Kathy and Brian, they would agree with me. I don't want to keep you guys too long. We can stay on. You guys, you can leave.
I got one story I got to tell.
Okay, go ahead. I was going to ask you guys just to, share whatever you want. And like I said, Mike, Ken, and Eric, if you got to go, just drop off. But go ahead, Ken. Sorry.
We were approaching, this is in the Grand Canyon, we were approaching, I'd say a medium-sized rapid. I don't remember which one it was. And I think Mike was out in front of you at that time. And Eric and I decided we were going to try to follow Mike's commands too, as you do, voice commands, with our eyes closed. just to see if we could do it. And I think both of us, said no, can't do it, because we started feel the acceleration, and you start to drop into that rapid, and I think we both said no, can't do it. It was just reinforced, what we feel about you, and your courage to do what you did. It's just amazing.
It's blind luck. No, I'm absolutely terrified, and I'm sure Eric, all you guys have seen it in me, and I really have to, just like in Iraq, even, I think I was more scared sitting on the bank of the river, waiting to go into this roar than I was in Iraq, to go out, out the wire into sector. But it's funny. People don't realize, like, you can feel the rapid in you and in the rock, and hear it from a mile away, if not further. And that's so cool to hear, though. It is. It's as soon as we're like, we're cruising down this placid, peaceful, blissful part of the river, we're touching the rock, and then all of a sudden, we hear, it's like, oh, that's a mile away, and it gets louder and louder and louder, and this anxiety, and it probably builds up in all paddlers. I it would be my guess. I know how I feel, and I maybe think about not being able to see the rapid, but whether or not you can see, it probably builds up in us. But man, it's like the fear of the unknown, and I really thought, Powell, who made the first trip down the river so long ago, was disabled too. So it's just kind of an interesting connection, to what we did when I think about it. Eric or Mike, you guys want to add something? Yeah.
Well, one of my favorite moments on the whole trip was right above Granite, and Granite, big Class 8 rapid.
It's one of my favorites.
We were only like quarter mile from the rapid, and we had the film crew boat trying to mic us up, and they're just taking their time. I'm like, and I was just getting nervous because we had to set up for the rapid, and at
I remember.
point, we were like 200 yards from the rapid. I'm like, guys, we got to go. Sorry. And it just didn't really give me any time to clear my head before going into Granite, which is, one of the bigger rapids in the whole canyon. And just that 30 seconds going into the rapid, I was just like, oh, I got to clear my head. And hopefully we make it through this. And then we went into Granite, and we made all four of us had a clean line through Granite. I think you got upside down once.
Yeah,
Steve,
once. Yep.
If I remember right.
Yep.
But, we had a great run through Granite, and it was just a huge confidence builder for me and the whole team.
That was one of my favorite rapids, man. This exploding water, and that day was great because we went through Horn, Granite, and Hermit, right? I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. And man, that was my. I think I've heard you say, Eric, too. It's like one of the favorite days on the Grand Canyon, on the Colorado. And,
it is my favorite day. You get 3 massive, big wave trains, and it's just a blast.
Do you have anything, Mike, that you might want to add or say? And I know that you guys are busy too, so if you have to go. So
one of my favorite days that we're on the river, it was pretty amazing. I think it was mile 24 or 26 or something. We hit that big rapid. I don't know the name of it. I think it was just one of the numbers.
House Rock?
And maybe it was House Rock. Yeah. And you kind of drifted off to the left a little bit.
Yeah.
And I watched you go into the gnarliest wave. And I was like, I'm never going to see Steve again. And you rolled. And you turned around and you followed our voice, and then you rolled again, and then you came through and you had the biggest smile on your face.
Oh,
dripping, pouring with water, and you just had this cheesiest grin. And I think you even said, "Let's do it again." I'm not sure.
I did. I think
super fun, super awesome.
It was House Rock, our first big rapid.
That was
first 8.
Yeah.
So, it was at the level that we were doing the river. It was a class 8. I'm glad you brought that up. That was one of my favorite moments because I was the first, I think, person to swim. I don't know. I swam twice, I think, on the trip. I can't remember now. And swimming means you leave the kayak for listeners and viewers, and that's the last thing you want to do. It's not a big deal, especially when we have such a great team like this, the Blue Angels around you, to come in and sweep you up. But it's really important to stay in your boat, to not wet exit, to break the skirt from your cockpit and leave the boat. But sometimes you're stuck in a hole, this hydraulic, this water that's pummeling you, and you can't get out. It's really wild, the physics and the hydraulics on the river. You don't realize the power of the river unless you go swim in it. Especially through rapids, watching it from the bank, it doesn't matter, and so I swam the first day, and I think the second day we were at where you're talking about, Mike. It was House Rock, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it was the same day. But that was like you said, I went, everybody went right or middle right, and I went left because I guess I broke through a lateral or something, and I couldn't hear anything at that point, so I just aimed. I rolled, and then I aimed for the big noise, and I was like, okay, that's where the rapid is. Go there, and and so I was going end over end and getting thrown like I think the hardest I've ever been thrown, and I was like, just be calm, just hang loose. And I got in the position, and waited. I was like, that's too much suction. That's not going to work. And I waited the second time, and I rolled up, and I was just so happy that I was calm and that I was so relaxed. And from that point forward, for most of the trip after that, I just felt like on fire. I just felt like I was like, it washed away the fear and the anxiety. And so I'm glad you brought that up, Mike. That was one of the big days for me, on the river. There were so many, though. Even just like the waterfalls. Like we hiked up to these like hidden cascading waterfalls, and like these jewels, these hidden places in the canyon that are right off the river. Of course, you can hike down from the rim, but it's kind of cool to just get a float, float into these areas and hike up a mile or something or less than that, and have the opportunity to just bask in these pools. And some of you guys were, I think, jumping off a waterfall. I don't know. Did either one of you guys? Did any of you guys do that?
I didn't. No.
I did a small jump, but not like Lonnie did.
Lonnie crazy.
Did like a 15-foot jump at one of those places.
But I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to come on here and talk. And I actually will have you guys on individually probably in the future to talk about things if you're interested. But it's I think I'm gonna let you guys go so you guys can get stuff done on this day. But again, thanks for sharing some stories to the public. Maybe we'll do it again.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah. So you guys, I'll let you guys sign off, and then I'm gonna say a few more words. But thank you, Ken, Mike, and Eric, and hope everybody enjoyed that.
Yep. Thanks, bud.
Thanks, bud.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
Yep.
Can we give a little shout out to Eric Guzman today?
Oh, yeah.
As you guys know, he's going into the hospital today, so we just want to wish him and his family the best of luck.
He's in surgery right now, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Prayers for him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Eric was one of our guides on our trip.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He
prayers and thoughts for Eric and his family.
He chased me into House Rock, and after that he was like, I don't think I'm gonna chase you again into something. So, but yeah, absolutely keep him in your prayers, everybody. Thanks, Mike, for saying
Just
that.
need one plug too for Canukopia.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Yeah, Steve is going to be presenting at the world's largest paddle sports expo, Canukopia, March 7th and 8th in Madison, Wisconsin. He's going to be a speaker there.
Awesome.
Yeah, I always,
Nice.
He's Eric. Or thanks, Ken. I'm bad about that stuff. Well, you guys, it's been, I mean, feel free if you want to chat some more. I mean, I can go however long. We can just talk about whatever you guys are doing. I know, it's I'm not in a rush, but I know that you guys can be busy.
Yeah, I gotta get running. Actually, we got
some
family stuff to go do, but I appreciate you guys having me on, and I look forward to doing it again with you.
Yeah, man. You take care.
And doing the river again with you.
Oh yeah, maybe in 2020.
Absolutely.
I heard rumors of 2020. So.
Rumors, right? That's a perfect year too, right? 2020 vision.
Yeah, Joe already hit me up for it. So.
Oh, awesome. Hell yeah.
I told him I was on board. So.
That's great. Well.
All right. See you guys.
Take care, Eric.
See you, Eric.
Yeah, man. No, this show is. I have no one probably watching it.
You got 4 people watching.
Well, we got 4 on.
There were 5.
There were 5. So, but it'll be on demand, guys. So you guys can go back and share it. This will be posted for you, Mike and Ken, if you're still there. Did you guys take off? They all left. Cool.
Yeah, they're all gone.
All right. Well, for all the listeners and viewers, I'm glad you guys, came on to tuned in live. This is our first show, so, man. I should let people call in, right? That's what. Ask some questions. Who is watching? You don't have names, I guess.
I don't get names.
That's right, on YouTube. Man, that was cool. So it went well. We were broadcasting, right?
Yeah,
the whole time.
I'm pretty sure we were live the whole time.
How many minutes was that?
50 minutes, 17 seconds.
What did you think, Vic, from what they had to say?
No, good stuff. Like you said, it'd be kind of cool to listen to everybody individually as well, and get the whole team in there by them.
Over time, maybe.
Yeah, over time, and maybe even get them here in the studio for you, since.
Yeah. I mean.
Because everybody's pretty local, right? Colorado Springs, with the exception of Kansas.
Not really. There's quite a few people from the East Coast too. Like Joe and some of the other guys, Bill and
But I was, and some of the videos that were playing throughout that too, they might not have matched up exactly with the rapids that, if there's any Grand Canyon experts out there, that's not, but yeah, I was showing some of you guys going down those rapids there.
Yeah, you just kind of had a bunch of shots primed and staged in the computer, but they weren't necessarily, when we were talking about lava or hands or something, you didn't have the exact intel on it. But anyway, I'm glad that you guys tuned in. I'm going to say goodbye. Be sure to subscribe, on YouTube, and pass it around, man. Please share it. I hope to do more stuff like this. I'm going to look for some other kinds of interesting characters. Maybe here after the February 18th time frame, I'm going to DC to work on Capitol Hill to help with some stuff related to blind eye trauma, traumatic eye injuries, and research related to that. So I might have a gentleman on, if he's open to it, talk about that, an ophthalmologist. So we'll have some medicine and science in the conversation. So Victor, let's say goodbye.
All right, signing out.